refugees at this point and banning Syrian refugees indefinitely. But there's another executive order that hasn't really gotten any attention at all. In fact, I was not aware of this and until my guest now brought it to my attention. Stephen Riznyk is a lawyer and CEO of myimmigrationattorney.com, also San Diego bizlaw.com. And Stephen, thanks for being with us here today.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, Joe.
You bet. And so this law pertains not to people coming into the country, but people who are already here. Is that right? Or this executive order?
People coming into the country, right? Because the people coming into the country won't be able to get in, but it's primarily for people on this side of the borders, absolutely, and it's very threatening, actually.
And this order, in essence, says any people who have committed a certain class of crimes, I guess, will be picked up and deported.
Well, basically, yeah. It goes way beyond that. I mean, it states that, if you have a criminal record, and it doesn't really break it down. So if you have a criminal record, you're subject to immediate removal, because these are the priority removals. So these are the people that they will be hunting first. Secondly, you merely need to be charged with a crime. So, for example, let's say, drinking and driving, there's obviously a lot of that, unfortunately. But, people get charged. They may have a .04 blood alcohol, as one of my clients did, and simply just, took a lane, was about to miss the lane, so he took it. And, of course, he ended up in jail. He was charged. Somebody like that, who he was later released and the charges were dropped, but somebody like that, even before the conviction, gets removed, Joe. And then even more delicately, people who have committed the elements of an offense and haven't even been charged are removable. So one of the cases that stands out, I had this lady, and she had gone to Walmart to have photographs printed. This was a while back, and they had the photography department right by the front door. One of her children was screaming uncontrollably, but at this time she was, thumbing through the pictures. The clerk was busy with other people, and she brought the buggy, the bass cart, whatever you call it, outside the store. Unfortunately, the clerk, instead of looking at what went on, called security, who then called the police. So she had a bigger mess on her hands. But somebody like that who simply pulls it out of the store, the police haven't been called, is removable.
Wow. So they don't necessarily even have to face a charge, or?
That's correct. As long as it is believed that they have done something that is, either a threat to the public safety or a threat to persons, they are completely removable.
And of course, we're talking about people. I take it that this applies to people, green card holders, folks with that type of status. Wow.
Correct. Green card holders and visa holders. So it's the whole net. So you have somebody over $5 pictures who's charged for taking them outside the store. No, she did not intend to pay. She did have the money, but unfortunately, she took the screaming child outside. That would be it. She would lose her status in the United States. And what a lot of people, we've been getting a lot of calls because we specialize in waivers, which is the document that is able to get the government to forgive you. People are now afraid to drive because you end up in a car accident, something goes wrong, and something's not a traffic offense, but you're charged with something else. Bingo, they're out of the country. That's all they need is to be charged. So it's a big threat, and as well as all the people who have a criminal record. Now, I'm not pro-crime at all. But on the other hand, I have various clients who, as children, 21, 22, 23, made stupid choices. And, they may have had a criminal record, may or may not have been in jail, usually not. Today they're CEOs or they own a company. They're supplying jobs. They're making a difference. They donate to charities, et cetera, et cetera. These people would simply be removed from the country, and all the people working for them would lose their jobs.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I suspect that most people that this executive order would apply to aren't even aware of it because, well, we just haven't had reporting on it, and I mean, how the obviously the government not isn't out notifying people and saying, "Hey, watch it, green card holders."
I know, and that's what surprises me. And I think the biggest reason is because, it is controversial because if somebody takes it on, somebody, you know how the public generalizes. So if somebody takes it on, somebody else can say, oh, you're pro-criminal, you want to keep criminals in the country. Well, not every crime is a major crime. You know what I mean? People make stupid mistakes. Somebody may have borrowed their roommate's keys to the car without permission. That's all it takes, kind of thing. So there are a lot of things that aren't serious offenses. Marijuana used to be illegal in California. Now it's not, or Colorado. How many people have offenses? I just had a guy call me yesterday. 3 grams of marijuana, can't get back in the country. And again, I'm not pro marijuana. I don't use drugs. But what I'm trying to say is that, depending on the time in which this occurred or how long it was in the past, unfortunately, it can still hurt them. And they're a priority for removal, which is even worse than, for example, one of my clients yesterday who was from Pacific Beach, which is an area in San Diego which is absolutely lovely, filled with tourists and as foreigners, I should say. The police, the federal police was there. They were asking people for ID, and then they can, run them, find out if they have a criminal record, and remove them. And they
Wow.
were actually following people home to if they didn't have identification on them.
Do people have to? Are they required to show ID to a federal agent like that if it's requested
To
legally?
be honest, I don't know the answer, but I'm willing to bet that they have a choice. They can either show them or go into a jail cell and wait until it's produced. So I'm willing to bet that that's exactly how that operates.
Wow.
So it's something, as a foreigner, it's a little bit scary. You don't want to mess with the government, so, you try to comply as much as you can. And if
Sure.
you're not showing ID, well, now you're giving the federal agent a suspected cause. Like, why don't they want to show me their ID? What are they hiding? Or maybe it's a phony ID, and you'd be surprised. I mean, there's a whole underground economy behind phony IDs and everything else.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Talking with Stephen Riznyk, he's a lawyer and CEO of myimmigrationattorney.com, and about this executive order signed by Donald Trump that requires really any immigrant that commits a crime, sounds like just about any crime, to be immediately deported. And I'm wondering how we've been having this debate in our city and in our city council about the sanctuary city issue. They passed a measure this week that doesn't declare Bellingham as a sanctuary city, but in essence, establishes, or well, it just codifies the practices that the police have been following for years, really, and that is to
Hmm.
not participate in the immigration process, arrest or take someone into custody or deal with somebody who just for what the crime that they're accused of committing, and not asking their immigration status. Our sheriff has also said that's how his officers function as well. But how do you know how the federal agents in the cases, in those types of cases, or in the case of an actual declared sanctuary city, are finding out this information about these people?
Yes, from what I've been able to read, and again, there's information both ways. It's hard to find out what's black and white. But from what I've read, although they will release the foreigner, they will still transfer the information over to Department of Homeland Security. So DHS has the right to either chase the person or not chase the person.
Hmm. I see.
But again, it's a presidential order, and these are the priority removals. Their job would be to do what they're doing.
Is there a class of crime? I mean, does it have to be a felony that they've committed, or not that serious?
No, it doesn't have to be serious at all. It just says, criminal offense, and that's part of the problem. That there isn't enough of a definition in that presidential order to really, put your hands around, to really know. But the way it's written now, it's a broad brushstroke, and it just, anybody who's got a criminal record, anybody who's suspected of having, committed the offenses but hasn't been charged, or anybody who's just been charged, even, conviction's not necessary. Guilt isn't necessary.
Wow. In your
I mean,
opinion,
people don't realize this is a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about families being split up, and that's and just the fact that it's just so broad. It screams to me that it is absolutely, it's just anti-immigrant. It's just aimed at people who weren't born in the United States, and it's a mean-spirited order aimed at just getting as many of them out of the country as possible.
Well, I can't speak to that because I mean, I think that the president has his heart in the right place. It's the execution of these orders that creates problems because they're not narrowly defined enough by whoever's writing them, so that we really know what's what's doable and not. Because now the problem that you have, I mean, I'm a lawyer and I'm very analytical, and I'm having trouble understanding if there are any loopholes, any, getaways, this or that. Well, a police officer, a federal agent, they're not going to have time to sit down and analyze. They've got a job, get rid of these people. So, that's what they're going to do. And so when it gets to that level, they're really becoming judge and jury, which is something that they haven't been trained for.
Hmm.
And they're tasked with that. And that's when it becomes dangerous because also, the president has stated that, the federal people will be talking to the state's attorney generals in order to get the local police enforcement on board. Well, really, how trained are the police in dealing with federal issues? They've got enough to deal with all the crimes in these, the massive codes. Now you're telling them you're going to deal with it with a federal issue, and the problem is this doesn't say go to a judge or jury, get a decision by somebody who knows these laws. It just says get out.
Hmm.
It's a problem, and it's going to be a disaster. Then this is going to destroy a lot more lives, a lot more careers, a lot more jobs than keeping people from 7 countries out of the United States for a few weeks. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's sweeping because once you've got somebody outside the country, winning a waiver and getting them back in is extremely difficult. It makes much more sense to file a waiver when you're in the country if you qualify for one. And even then, waiver is the equivalent of neurosurgery in medicine. It's not an easy project. But if you can get that approval from the government, you're okay. If you don't have a waiver, you're basically on your own waiting until, some stroke of fate hits you and bingo, you're in the crosshairs. And that's all it takes.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, this is a lot more broad than the Obama administration because the Obama administration, its policy was basically to deport felons, was it not? Or serious offenders that they found
Right.
that they would capture. And
Correct.
that was their focus, not just this broad brush. If you've committed a crime, you're out of here.
Yeah, and I'm okay with felons. We don't need. We can produce our own if we want to. We don't. We don't need to import them.
Sure.
But I think that some discretion is necessary. Especially, let's say, I mean, I had one guy. He got drunk and he was from England and he was like 22. Now he runs a multi-million-dollar company. But at the time, he got drunk and I can't remember what he did. I think he threw his beer bottle against a building. Got criminally charged. I kept him out of the country. Um, and so, now, he's in his 50s. Very successful, very well respected individual. But, that guy needs a waiver to get in. Now, if he were in this country in his 50s as a CEO, that offense would keep him out.
Hmm. Wow.
Would get him removed.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't think that people realize how devastating this is, and it surprises the heck out of me that nobody's taken it on. But I think people are just afraid that everybody's going to attack them and say, "Oh yeah, you just want criminals here." I
Yeah.
don't think it's about wanting criminals.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
absolutely. Uh,
I think there's got to be a point where discretion comes in, and we have to be a little bit more of a forgiving country. Not a forgiving of felonies and what I mean, major crimes or crimes against the person,
sure.
but of stupid little things like I can't tell you how many people we've had $50 shoplifting. Just something stupid, for lack of a better word, because they could afford it, for whatever reason. But again, nobody got hurt. It's many years ago. They've obviously been caught. The store got their merchandise back. I mean, there are ways of ascertaining whether the person feels bad, has remorse for what they've done, and is willing to be a better person. And sometimes it takes a mistake for us to see who we really are to clean up our act.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In your mind, do you think this executive order is challengeable in court the way our state and Minnesota challenged the immigration ban?
Oh gosh, yeah, that challenge to the immigration, that was good reading actually. It is completely challengeable, even more so than the travel ban, in my opinion. It's just that nobody is challenging it, so it remains in full force and effect. And this is a problem because a lot of foreigners, they leave, especially when they're getting older, their parents are sick or something. They have no idea that they won't be coming back in.
Hmm.
So it's a big problem. But yeah, I completely see it as challengeable, and regrettably, the way it's written, I don't think it can sustain a good attack. I don't see
Hmm.
this one holding up. The only difference, Joe, is this: the distinction to be drawn is, you know, oftentimes, many laws are passed stating that our country is at war, and you know, we are the leader in the world, if you will, in many ways, and we try to set a good example. Someone will always want to hurt us. So the question remains on a political level. Are we going to just always say that we're at war so we can pass the Patriot Act, this act, that act, and whatever we want? Or do we realize that this is just the way it is? We're always going to be a threat. I mean, even when, we had the Cold War, it's still a threat.
Hmm.
It's a massive threat. But we didn't always live every day with this big umbrella that we're at war. So if, the president chooses to say, look, we're at war, he does have much more latitude. But I think that the American population would go to bed at night a little better rested if we don't always have to wake up with the thought that we're at war. Um, you know what I'm trying to say? It's not
Yeah.
like we're at threat, but not necessarily at war. And there's a distinction to be drawn.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. These onerous laws that are passed to protect us in the name of national security, and it just all it does is it hems us in further and further, even we as citizens. And well, I'm happy to help you get the word out about this. This is pretty onerous, this executive
Hmm.
order. And the number, let's see, it's 13 or 13768. And boy, well, my heart goes out to people who are caught up in this. And it just seems to me that if someone has committed a crime as a young person, they were charged, they were convicted, they did their time, or they paid their debt to society, and now they're being punished again. It just seems like double jeopardy to me.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it is. And I think there's some how to put it. There has to be some distinctions drawn. Yes, it is double jeopardy. Now again, nobody has the right to to what's the word? No, nobody has the right to America who's a foreigner. However, however, by the same token, we have to look at what kind of a crime. If it's something that had no jail time, no personal injury to a human being, or maybe even property, you can make it wider. That's one kind of crime. But when you've got something like shoplifting or throwing a beer bottle against a wall, or even shoplifting where there wasn't shoplifting, like the Walmart case, or even a car accident where it wasn't your fault, and it wasn't, you know what I'm trying to say? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
was hurt, but there was something that became a misdemeanor.
Right.
um, this can happen to anybody. It
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
happen to anybody, and it shouldn't be life destructive, especially if they're a contributing member to society. And that's really what I think is important, because a lot of people come here and they take America for granted. What can I take? What can I get? Right? So it's the whole me, 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 me. But I like it that I've been blessed with a number of clients who come here and say, I'm really grateful for
Mm-hmm.
the freedoms, the beautiful weather, the nice homes, the this, the that. I want to give back. I want to volunteer in society. I want to do this. I want to do that. it's worth looking and balancing those equities. You don't need to. I know we're short of immigration judges, but you don't need a judge. In my opinion, you just need a wise old person, male, female, doesn't matter, who's been around life and says, I see this and I see this, and I see that this was 15 years ago, and you were drunk and stupid. You made a mistake, but I also see that you're contributing to America, so we can overlook this because by the same token, with this wide brushstroke, we're not only getting rid of bad people, which of course I'm totally in favor of, but we're getting rid of some great people.
Yeah,
everybody.
Absolutely.
Where we don't discriminate, we treat you all alike. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. That's not
At least we're
mean.
fair that way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's not what we mean by non-discrimination. But Stephen Riznyk, really interesting discussion, and glad to help. Like I said, help get the word out about this and learn about it and talk about it, because we need to keep this stuff out in the open. And once again, Stephen Riznyk, immigration lawyer and CEO of myimmigrationattorney.com. Thanks so much for being with us today here on The Joe Show, Stephen.
Thank you so much for having us on The Joe Show, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll stay in touch.
You got it. All the best.
Take care. And we'll take a quick break. Be back with more here on The Joe Show as we continue on this Wednesday here at AM 930 Progressive Talk, KBAI. Also at 98.9 FM. Our phone number, 360-734-5697. Thanks for joining us here on The Joe Show, here on AM 930, Progressive Talk, KBAI.